Now that the plastic parts for the level 1 superstructure have been prepared, I can move on to improving their detail. This involves removing the molded details and replacing them with Photo-etch. I have replacement Photo-etch parts for the doors and ladders. There are two versions of this type of door for the kit, one that opens to the left and one that opens to the right. So as you would expect, the FlyHawk detail upgrade kit comes with two Photo-etch versions of this door, one for opening to the left and the other for opening to the right. So, before I remove the molded doors, I need to take note of the direction which they are opening so that I can replace them with the appropriate Photo-etch door. To do this, I use a notation of 3 dots, 2 dots representing the hinges, vertically aligned, and then 1 dot in the center representing the door handle. I place these dots on the back of the part behind where the door should be installed. At the bottom, on the side of the part, I then mark a small notch to indicate the precise location of the center of the door at the base of the part. After taking note of how the door is oriented, I then file off the door using a bar file, and then smooth off the surface using 400 grit sandpaper. After sanding, if you look very carefully at the surface, you can still see an outline of where the door used to be, and this is a secondary feature that you can use to help realign the replacement Photo-etch door. But it's not necessarily reliable, and in some cases it's going to be more difficult to see than in others. So having a set of markings that will help you with correctly orienting the replacement Photo-etch door will help a lot. For flat parts with only doors on them, the removal is very easy and quick. You can do them all simultaneously, but for parts with details that you want to retain, you do have to be a bit more careful. In those cases, I find that covering detail that you want to retain with masking tape helps protect them. To mark the locations of ladders, I draw a vertical line along the length of the ladder on the back of the part, and then I remove the ladder using the same method that I have used to remove the doors. The part that has the most detail that I want to retain is this section of wall that transitions between the shelter deck and the quarter deck. Over here I want to remove all these hatch covers and a single door at the bottom, while retaining this thin line and all the details around it. Because it's quite constrained to work in this area, filing does go fairly slowly, and there's a lot greater risk of damaging and gouging this part. Any deep scratches that I do impart, I'll fix at a later stage with Tamiya plastic putty. Now that all the plastic parts are sanded and ready for the Photo-etch to be installed, I can start preparing the Photo-etch parts themselves. The doors come in two versions, as I previously said, one that opens to the left and one that opens to the right. And they also can be installed in two different methods, as a door that is open or a door that is closed. For this model, I'll be installing the doors in the closed position, and that means I need to fold them shut. I found that with these doors, they require a fair amount of precision to fold correctly, more precision than you can achieve through just using tweezers. So I pulled out the Photo-etch folding tool. The Photo-etch folding tool enables me to precisely position the frame in the tool, and then fold very close to the base of the hinges. If I don't fold it this way, the door will not correctly align with the frame when closed. Once folded, they can then be installed on the plastic parts. To install them, I first put a small drop of extra thick superglue in the location where the door should be placed, and then I place the door on top of the drop of superglue. After putting the Photo-etch on top of the drop of superglue, it will float for a little bit and gives me an opportunity to position the door in the precise location. Once in the precise location, I'll push it down with a small amount of force and it is tacked in place. Since at this point it is only glued down by a drop of glue in the center of the door, the bond is not that strong, so I further reinforce the bond using extra thin superglue applied with a wire to the edge of the part. This will create a strong bond over the entire contact area between the Photo-etch and the plastic part. This video is part of a build series on the HMS hood. If you are enjoying this video and would like to see other videos in this build series, then follow the link to the playlist in the cards above. If you have questions that you would like me to answer, then feel free to post them in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe to help the channel. After installing all of the doors, I install the ladders. The ladder comes in the form of a long ladder that needs to be cut into individual pieces. Instead of trying to pre-cut and then install the ladders, I decided to rather install it on the model as a single long piece and then, once glued down, cut it to the correct length. To do this, I placed the ladder on the model without any glue, and then while holding it down, I apply extra thin superglue to the edge to tack it down. With it then tacked in place, I can remove my finger and apply additional superglue to reinforce the bond. Once fully glued down, I use clippers to cut the ladder to the correct length. I think this method worked quite well. Having the extra length made it a lot easier to hold and position the ladder. It also gave me a place at the back of the ladder where I could apply extra thin superglue so they could get pulled down the back of the posts via capillary action. In future, this is the method that I'll use again for installing this type of ladder. I think it is a lot better than trying to cut them before installing them on the model. It is to be expected that when installing the ladders in this fashion, there will be a very small amount of overhang, and that overhang needs to be removed for this part to fit correctly onto the ship. So to do that, I use a file to sand off the top section of the ladders to make it flush with the top of the plastic part. The final piece of Photo-etch to be installed are these small gratings. I previously removed the plastic grating that was in the area, so that hole can now be covered with this Photo-etch grating. To install this grating, I apply extra thick superglue to the edge where the grating will be installed, then place the grating on the extra thick superglue, and then reinforce the bond with extra thin superglue. Once securely in place, I then tape off the area to protect the details around the grating, and then sand down the surface to make it flush with the rest of the plastic. Since these parts are going to be installed over a wooden deck, I need to paint them before I install them in the model, otherwise it's going to make painting them fairly complicated. I'm painting them in Tamiya XF53, that is the color that I'm using for the hull of the hood. I am aware that when I install these parts on the ship, there are going to be joint lines that will need to be corrected, and that in those areas, once I have filled those gaps with putty and sanded the area smooth again, I will have to respray. But it is going to be considerably easier to respray a few small areas than trying to respray the entire length of these components while they are installed on the ship. And that is it for this video. In the next video, I'll install these components onto the ship, fill the gaps with putty, and then paint them to blend them in with the rest of the ship. If you would like to support this channel or see how this model looks when it is completed, then please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Cheers.